The Betrayal. The twin sons of Azuria cast long shadows across the crystalline spires of the capital city as Zara stood before the High Council, her iridescent scales shimmering with anxiety. The young Azurian woman's antenna twitched nervously, sensing the tension in the air. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Zara, daughter of House Vex Aura, intoned Elder Kraz, his voice echoing through the cavernous chamber. You have been chosen for a great honor. Zara's heart raced. She had always dreamed of serving her people, of making her family proud. But the cold gleam in the elder's multifaceted eyes sent a chill down her spine. Our world faces dire times, Kraz continued. Resources dwindle. Our very way of life is threatened. But you, child, can save us all. Zara straightened, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. I am ready to serve, Elder. What would you have me do? A cruel smile played across Kraz's mandibles. You will be our emissary to a distant power, one that can provide what we need to survive. Before Zara could respond, strong hands gripped her arms. She turned to see two hulking guards, their exoskeletons gleaming in the fading light. What is this? Zara cried, struggling against their iron grip. Father, mother, what's happening? Her parents stood to the side, their faces masks of sorrow and shame. Her father couldn't meet her eyes as he spoke. I'm sorry, my daughter. It's for the good of our people. Realization dawned, horror flooding Zara's veins like ice water. No, you can't mean. Take her, Kraz ordered, waving a dismissive hand. Zara fought with all her strength as the guards dragged her from the chamber. Her cries echoed off the crystal walls, but no one came to her aid. Her own family, her own people, had betrayed her. Hours later, Zara huddled in the cold cargo hold of an alien ship, her wrists bound by strange energy cuffs. Tears streaked her delicate features as the reality of her situation sank in. She was to be sold into slavery, sacrificed for the supposed greater good of Azuria. The ship shuddered violently, alarms blaring. Zara was thrown against the wall as the vessel lurched sickeningly. Through the din, she heard panicked shouts from the crew. Engine failure. Losing altitude. Brace for impact. Zara curled into a protective ball as the ship plummeted towards an unknown planet. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was a sea of green rushing up to meet them. Jack Durant wiped the sweat from his brow, squinting against the harsh sun of New Eden. The ex-Marine turned homesteader had been working his modest farm since dawn, coaxing life from the alien soil of humanity's newest colony world. A brilliant flash in the sky caught his attention. Jack shaded his eyes, watching as a stricken ship streaked across the horizon, trailing smoke and debris. It disappeared behind the distant mountains with a resounding crash. Jack's first instinct was to call the colony's emergency services, but years of military training made him hesitate. That ship wasn't of human design. If the wrong people got there first. Decision made, Jack sprinted for his rugged all-terrain vehicle. He grabbed his old service rifle and medical kit, then gunned the engine. Whatever, or whoever, was on that ship, they'd need help. And Jack Durant wasn't the kind of man to leave someone in need. The journey to the crash site was treacherous, taking Jack through dense alien forests and across rocky ravines. By the time he reached the smoking wreckage, the twin suns were setting, casting an eerie glow across the scene. Jack approached cautiously, rifle at the ready. The ship was unlike anything he'd ever seen, its hull covered in strange biomechanical growths. A gaping hole had been torn in its side, and Jack could hear faint sounds coming from within. Steeling himself, Jack entered the ship. The interior was a maze of twisted metal and pulsing organic material. He made his way carefully through the wreckage, following the sounds of movement. In what appeared to be a cargo hold, Jack found her. An alien woman, unlike any species he'd encountered before. Her skin shimmered with iridescent scales, and delicate antennae sprouted from her forehead. She was trapped beneath a fallen beam, struggling weakly. Zara's eyes widened in fear as she saw the human approach. She had heard stories of these beings, violent, unpredictable creatures who shot first and asked questions later. She tried to shrink away, but the pain in her trapped leg was too much. To her surprise, the human lowered his weapon. "Easy there," he said in a gruff but gentle voice. "I'm not gonna hurt you. Let's get you out of here." With a grunt of effort, Jack lifted the beam. Zara scrambled free, then collapsed again with a cry of pain. Her leg was clearly broken. Jack knelt beside her, hands raised in a placating gesture. "My name's Jack. I'm here to help. Will you let me?" Zara hesitated, every instinct screaming at her to flee. But there was something in the human's eyes. Kindness, concern. Slowly she nodded. As Jack tended to her injuries, Zara's fear began to fade. This human was nothing like the monsters she'd been warned about. He worked efficiently but gently, explaining what he was doing in soothing tones. "There," Jack said, finishing with a makeshift splint. "That should hold until we can get you proper medical attention. Think you can stand?" With Jack's support, Zara managed to get to her feet. It was then that he noticed the energy cuffs still binding her wrists. "What the hell?" Jack muttered, examining the alien technology. "You're a prisoner." Zara nodded sadly, struggling to find the right words in the human language she'd learned from intercepted broadcasts. "Slave," she managed. "Sold by my people." Jack's expression hardened. "Like hell you are," he growled. He fiddled with the cuffs for a moment before giving up in frustration. "We'll figure out how to get these off later. Right now, we need to move. Whoever was transporting you might come looking." As if on cue, the sound of approaching engines filled the air. Jack peered out of the wreckage to see several sleek ships descending from the darkening sky. "Slavers," Zara whispered, trembling. Jack's jaw clenched. He'd thought those bastards had been driven out of human space years ago. Apparently not. "All right," he said, decision made. "Looks like you're coming with me. Unless you'd rather take your chances with them." Zara shook her head vehemently. This human, Jack, was her only hope. "Then hang on tight," Jack said, scooping Zara into his arms. "This is gonna be a bumpy ride." They barely made it to Jack's vehicle before the first slaver ship landed. As they rolled away into the gathering darkness, plasma bolts sizzled past them. Jack drove like a man possessed, using every trick he'd learned in his military days to lose their pursuers in the alien wilderness. Finally, after what felt like hours, the sounds of pursuit faded. Jack eased off the accelerator, allowing himself to breathe. Beside him, Zara had her eyes squeezed shut, antennae quivering. "Hey," Jack said softly, "you can relax. We lost him." Zara opened her eyes, marveling at the star-filled sky above them. For the first time since her betrayal, she felt a glimmer of hope. "Thank you," she whispered. Jack gave her a crooked smile. "Don't thank me yet. Something tells me this is just the beginning." As they drove through the alien night, neither Jack nor Zara could have imagined the incredible journey that lay ahead. A journey that would take them across the stars, challenge everything they thought they knew, and just maybe, save the galaxy itself. Little did they know, the seeds of an unlikely alliance had been planted. Human and alien, thrown together by fate, united against a common enemy. In the days to come, they would learn to trust, to fight, and perhaps to love. But for now, as New Eden's moons rose over the horizon, Jack and Zara were simply two souls fleeing into an uncertain future. The first step on an adventure that would change everything. Echoes of rebellion. The twin moons of New Eden cast an ethereal glow over Jack's homestead as he carefully maneuvered his vehicle into a concealed barn. Zara, still groggy from the makeshift painkillers Jack had administered, marveled at the strange beauty of this alien world. "Welcome to Casa Durant," Jack quipped, helping Zara from the vehicle. "It's not much, but it's off the grid and defensible." As they entered the modest dwelling, Zara's antenna twitched in surprise. The interior was a fascinating blend of rugged frontier practicality and advanced technology. Holographic displays flickered to life, scanning them both. Xenomorphic life form detected, a disembodied voice announced. Threat assessment, minimal. Jack chuckled at Zara's startled expression. Don't mind Day. She's an AI. Liberated during my last tour with the Marines. Been helping me keep this place running. Greetings, Azurian. Ida's voice softened. My databanks indicate your species is typically peaceful. How did you come to be in such dire straits? Zara hesitated, the pain of betrayal still fresh. Jack noticed her discomfort and intervened. Let's get you patched up properly first, then we can trade stories. As Jack tended to Zara's injuries with surprisingly gentle hands, she found herself studying this enigmatic human. He was nothing like the savage brutes her people's propaganda had portrayed. There was a depth to him, a complexity that both intrigued and unsettled her. There, Jack said, finishing with a more advanced medical device. That should accelerate the healing. Now, about those cuffs. He examined the energy restraints closely, muttering to himself, IDA, any ideas? The A's holographic interface sprang to life, projecting a 3D model of the cuffs. Fascinating technology. It appears to be keyed to Azurian biosignatures. I may be able to spoof the signal, but it will take time. Jack nodded. Do what you can. In the meantime, he met Zara's eyes. I think it's time we had a talk. Over the next hour, as New Eden's nocturnal creatures began their nightly chorus outside, Zara poured out her story. She told of Azuria's resource crisis, of the corrupt council's desperate gambit, and of her own family's heartbreaking betrayal. Jack listened intently, his expression growing darker with each revelation. When Zara finished, he stood abruptly, pacing the room. This goes deeper than simple slave trafficking, he growled. It sounds like your people's leaders are in bed with some seriously bad actors. The kind that could destabilize his whole sector if left unchecked. Zara's antenna drooped. What can we do? I'm just one person and you're an outworlder. How can we possibly stand against such corruption? Jack's eyes gleamed with a dangerous light. You'd be surprised what a couple of determined individuals can accomplish, especially when one of them is a decorated ex-Marine with a checkered past and a lot of favors to call in. He activated a holographic display, fingers dancing across the interface. IDA, initiate Protocol Phantom. It's time to wake some ghosts. Acknowledged, the AI replied. Reaching out to your old network now. I must warn you, Jack, this course of action carries significant risk. Jack's lips quirked in a humorless smile. Story of my life, IDA. But the alternative is letting slavers and corrupt politicians run roughshod over innocent people. Not on my watch. Zara watched in awe as messages began flooding the display. It seemed this unassuming human farmer had connections reaching far beyond New Eden. Jack, she said softly, why are you doing this? You owe me nothing. Your world isn't even directly threatened. Jack's expression softened as he turned to her. Because it's the right thing to do. Because everyone deserves a chance at freedom. And because, he hesitated, something vulnerable flickering in his eyes. Because I know what it's like to be betrayed by those you trust most. Before Zara could respond, an alert chimed. Jack's eyebrows shot up as he read the incoming message. Well, I'll be damned, he muttered. Looks like we've got ourselves a ship. A ship, Zara echoed, confused. Jack grinned, a reckless excitement radiating from him. Oh yeah, you didn't think we were going to take on an interstellar conspiracy from my little farmstead, did you? We're going to need to take this fight to the stars. As if on cue, a low rumble filled the air. Jack led Zara outside, where they watched in amazement as a sleek spacecraft shimmered into view, its cloaking field dissipating. Zara, meet the Stardancer, Jack said with pride. She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts. And she's our ticket to bringing down the bastards who did this to you. The ship's boarding ramp lowered, revealing a motley crew emerging to greet them. A grizzled Chris warrior, her chitinous armor gleaming. A lanky human woman with cybernetic augmentations and a mischievous grin. And to Zara's shock, an Azurian male, his scales a deep crimson. "Jack, you old war dog," the cybernetic woman called out. "What kind of trouble have you gotten yourself into this time?" "The best kind, Nyx," Jack replied with a wink. "The kind that might just save the galaxy." As introductions were made and plans began to form, Zara felt a surge of emotions she couldn't quite name. Fear, yes, but also hope. And something else, a warmth that blossomed in her chest whenever she looked at Jack. Little did she know, this ragtag group of misfits was about to embark on an adventure that would shake the very foundations of galactic society. From the neon-drenched streets of New Singapore to the treacherous asteroid fields of the Outer Rim, they would face dangers beyond imagining. But as the Stardancer lifted off, leaving New Eden behind in a blur of starlight, Zara realized something profound. She may have lost her family, her home, everything she thought defined her. But here, among these unlikely allies, she might just find something even more precious. A cause worth fighting for, a place to belong, and perhaps in the steel blue eyes of a certain ex-Marine, something she'd never dared to dream of. The stars beckoned, full of danger and promise, and Zara, once a pawn in a game she didn't understand, was ready to become a player. The revolution had begun. Stardust Rebellion. The Stardancer sliced through the inky void of space, its advanced stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible to conventional scanners. Inside the ship's command center, a holographic map of the galaxy spun lazily, dotted with pulsing red markers. Each of these points represents a major hub in the slave trade network, Jack explained, his voice grim. Thanks to Ida's decryption of the data from Zara's cuffs, we now have unprecedented insight into their operations. Zara, her iridescent scales shimmering under the hologram's glow, felt a mixture of horror and determination. "So many," she whispered. "How do we not know?" Nyx, the cybernetically enhanced human, snorted. "That's the thing about evil blue. It thrives in the shadows." Her artificial eye whirred as she zoomed in on a particular sector. But shadows can't stand against a supernova. The Chris warrior, Crix Tara, clicked her mandibles in agreement. "We strike hard, fast. Bring righteous fury upon these despoilers of freedom." Zara noticed the Azurian crew member, Vex, shift uncomfortably. His crimson scales seemed to darken with shame. "Not all of us knew the depths of corruption within our government," he said softly. "But ignorance is no excuse. We must make this right." Jack nodded, his eyes meeting Zara's with an intensity that made her heart race. "That's exactly what we're going to do. But we can't just go in guns blazing. We need intel, leverage, and most importantly, we need to expose this to the galaxy at large." "I might have an idea about that," Nyx chimed in, a mischievous glint in her organic eye. "Ever heard of the Nexus?" The others looked at her blankly, but Jack's eyebrows shot up. "The pirate broadcast network. I thought that was just a myth." Nyx's grin widened. "Oh, it's real all right. And I happen to know the gal who runs it. If we can get her solid evidence of this conspiracy, she'll blast it across every communication channel in the sector. Not even the Galactic Council could suppress it." "It's risky," Jack mused, stroking his stubbled chin. "But it might be our best shot. All right, where do we find this mythical broadcaster?" "Oh, that's the fun part," Nyx laughed. "We've got to infiltrate the galaxy's most exclusive and dangerous nightclub." The neon-drenched streets of Omega Station pulsed with a frenetic energy. Beings from 100 different species mingled, bartered, and brawled beneath the watchful eyes of heavily armed security drones. At the heart of this controlled chaos stood the Nebula, a towering structure of shimmering force fields and impossible architecture. "Remember the plan," Jack's voice crackled through the teen's subdermal comms. "Nyx and I will make contact with our broadcaster. Crix Tara, you're our muscle if things go south. Vex, keep the engine running. Zara." I know, Zara sighed, adjusting the holoprojector that disguised her distinctive Azurian features. Stay with the ship. I'm too recognizable. Hey, Jack's tone softened. You're the key to all of this. We can't risk you falling back into their hands. Zara felt a warmth blossom in her chest at his concern. Just be careful, okay? Aren't I always? Jack quipped, and she could practically hear his roguish grin. As the team dispersed, Zara paced nervously in the Stardancer's hold. Aida's holographic interface flickered to life beside her. Your vital signs indicate elevated stress levels, the AI observed. Perhaps a relaxation protocol would be beneficial. Zara shook her head. I can't relax, Ida. Not when they're out there risking everything. Not when my people are still. She trailed off, overcome with emotion. Your concern is understandable, Ida replied, her tone surprisingly gentle for an artificial construct. But Jack Durant's track record suggests a high probability of success. His ability to improvise in high-stress situations is quite remarkable for an organic being. Despite herself, Zara smiled. He is rather remarkable, isn't he? Before Ida could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Vex's panicked voice came through the comms. We've got company. Slaver ships, at least 3 of them. They must have tracked us somehow. Zara's heart raced. Jack. Nix. You need to abort the mission. We have to. Her words were cut off as a massive explosion rocked the Stardancer. Through the viewscreen, Zara watched in horror as energy weapons lanced out from the slaver ships, targeting the station's defenses. They're creating a diversion, Vex realized, using the chaos to slip in and grab us. In that moment, something shifted within Zara. The fear and uncertainty that had plagued her since her betrayal crystallized into steely resolve. She was done being a victim, done hiding while others fought her battles. Ida, she commanded, her voice ringing with newfound authority. Initiate Protocol Stardust. Warning, the AI cautioned. Protocol Stardust is highly experimental and potentially dangerous. Jack specifically instructed. I don't care what Jack instructed. Zara cut her off. This is my fight too. Activate it. Now. There was a momentary pause before Ida replied. Acknowledged. Protocol Stardust initiated. Good luck, Zara. A shimmering field of energy enveloped Zara's body, nanites swarming across her skin. She felt a surge of power unlike anything she'd ever experienced. In that moment, she understood why her people had been so feared, so coveted as weapons. With a thought, she interfaced directly with the Stardancer's systems. The ship came alive around her, responding to her will as if it were an extension of her own body. Vex, she called out, her voice resonating with newfound strength. Get us airborne. We're going to show these slavers exactly who they're dealing with. As the Stardancer rose from its berth, plasma cannons charging, Zara felt a fierce joy surge through her. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just surviving. She was fighting back. Across the station in the pulsing heart of the nebula, Jack felt a tremor run through the floor. He turned to see energy weapons lancing across the sky, and at the center of the maelstrom, a familiar ship moving with impossible grace. Zara, he whispered, a mix of awe and concern in his voice. What have you done? The battle that followed would become the stuff of legend, whispered in awe across 100 worlds. A single ship, piloted by an Azurian thought to be mere cargo, decimating a slaver fleet. And in its wake, a message broadcast on every frequency. To all those who would enslave others, who would profit from suffering and fear. Your time is over. The Stardust Rebellion has begun. As the Stardancer streaked away from Omega Station, leaving destruction and liberation in its wake, the galaxy held its breath. Change was coming, whether it was ready or not. And at the heart of it all, an unlikely pair, a human ex-marine and an Azurian former slave, whose bond would reshape the very fabric of galactic society. The revolution wasn't just beginning. It was evolving into something far greater than anyone could have imagined. Quantum insurgency. The Stardancer hung in high orbit above Nexus Prime, the legendary data haven world. Its iridescent atmosphere swirled with streams of pure information, visible even from space. Inside the ship's newly upgraded command center, the crew gathered around a holographic display of unprecedented complexity. Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted sentients, Nyx announced with a flourish, her cybernetic implants gleaming. Welcome to Operation Singularity. Zara, still adjusting to her newfound abilities after activating Protocol Stardust, felt the ship's systems hum in harmony with her own bioelectric field. She caught Jack's concerned glance and gave him a reassuring nod. The transformation had been intense, but she was in control. Thanks to our daring raid on Omega Station, Nyx continued, we've not only crippled a major slaver outpost, but also acquired the encryption keys to the entire Galactic Council's secure network. The question is, what do we do with this quantum goldmine? Crixtara chittered excitedly, her mandibles clicking. We crash their systems, yes. Bring glorious chaos to the oppressors. Vex, the Azurian defector, shook his head. Tempting but short-sighted. We need to expose their corruption in a way that can't be ignored or covered up. Jack stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with the light of inspiration. What if we could do both? Day, bring up Project Looking Glass. The A's holographic avatar shimmered into view. Caution advised, Jack. Project Looking Glass is highly theoretical and potentially reality-altering. That's exactly what we need, Jack insisted. Zara, with your new abilities, you're the key to making this work. Are you up for it? Zara felt a surge of determination. Whatever it takes to bring justice to my people and end this corruption. What's the plan? As Jack outlined the audacious scheme, even the battle-hardened crew found themselves in awe. It was more than a simple data hack or system crash. They were going to rewrite the very fabric of galactic information flow. In simple terms, Jack explained, we're going to create a quantum entanglement network that links every communication device in the galaxy. For a brief moment, everyone, from the lowest street urchin to the highest council member, will be connected in a singular consciousness. They'll see the truth, unfiltered and undeniable. By the void, Vex whispered, That's impossible. Nyx cackled. Impossible is our specialty, scales. But pulling this off, we're gonna need some serious backup. Jack nodded grimly. That's where it gets complicated. We need to recruit some uniquely talented individuals, and they're not exactly easy to find. Over the next several days, the Stardancer embarked on a whirlwind recruitment drive across the galaxy's most dangerous and exotic locales. On the Chronoton fields of Tempest VI, they convinced Dr. Elara Voss, a brilliant but disgraced temporal physicist, to join their cause. Her mastery of time dilation would be crucial in coordinating the galaxy-wide quantum event. In the depths of the Neptunian Trench on aquatic world Hydra Prime, they sought out Zholak, a bioengineered squid-like being with unparalleled hacking abilities. Its liquid computing skills would be essential in navigating the Council's quantum firewalls. Their most perilous recruitment came on the prison planet Tartarus. There, in a maximum security cell built to contain beings of pure energy, they found Arxon Zell, a living star who had been imprisoned for accidentally obliterating a solar system. Its power would fuel the massive energy requirements of Project Looking Glass. With each new addition to the team, the plan grew more complex, more dangerous, and more likely to succeed, but it also drew unwanted attention. As the Stardancer prepared to leave the Crab Nebula after acquiring a cache of exotic matter, they found themselves surrounded by a fleet of sleek, black ships. Well, a silky voice purred over the comms. Jack Durant, I should have known you'd be at the center of this little insurrection. Jack's face hardened. Serena, still doing the Council's dirty work, I see. Oh, Jack, Serena laughed, the sound sending chills down Zara's spine. You have no idea what's really going on. The Council, they're just puppets. The real power lies with the Omega Collective, and they're very interested in your little band of misfits. The Omega Collective is a myth, Vex protested, a bogeyman story told to scare initiates. I assure you, Serena's voice dropped to a menacing whisper, we are very real, and we do not appreciate your meddling in affairs beyond your comprehension. Zara stepped forward, her body crackling with barely contained energy. Comprehension. I understand perfectly. You profit from suffering. You twist entire civilizations to serve your greed. Well, no more. With a thought, Zara interfaced with the Stardancer's systems. The ship's hull began to glow with an otherworldly light. Zara, wait. Jack called out, but it was too late. A pulse of pure quantum energy erupted from the Stardancer, engulfing Serena's fleet. For a moment, reality itself seemed to warp and bend. When the light faded, the enemy ships were gone, not destroyed, but phased into another dimension entirely. Zara collapsed, the effort of wielding such power leaving her drained. Jack rushed to her side, cradling her gently. That was incredible, he murmured, and terrifying. Are you okay? Zara managed a weak smile. I will be. But Jack, I saw something when I unleashed that power. The Omega Collective, they're not just controlling the Council. They're manipulating the very fabric of our reality. A stunned silence fell over the command center. The implications were staggering. Their mission had just become far more than exposing corruption or ending slavery. They were now fighting for the very nature of existence itself. Well, Nick said, breaking the tension. I guess we'd better make sure Project Looking Glass works then. The fate of all reality is riding on us. No pressure or anything. As the Stardancer streaked towards Nexus Prime, its crew prepared for the most ambitious hack in galactic history. But now they knew the true stakes. It wasn't just about freeing slaves or toppling corrupt officials. They were about to challenge the hidden architects of reality itself. The quantum insurgency had begun, and the entire universe would never be the same. Paradigm shift paradox. The crystalline spires of Nexus Prime pierced the data-saturated atmosphere, each structure a living computer processing unimaginable amounts of information. The Stardancer, cloaked in a shimmering quantum field, hovered above the planet's northern pole, the only place where the immense energy requirements of Project Looking Glass could be met. Inside the ship's reconfigured hold, now a makeshift laboratory crackling with exotic energies, the unlikely crew made their final preparations. Dr. Elara Voss, her silver hair flowing in defiance of gravity, manipulated holographic equations with practiced ease. The chronoton stabilizers are aligned. We'll have a 3.7 microcycle window to initiate the quantum entanglement cascade. Jolak, its tentacles interfaced directly with the ship's systems, burbled a response. Firewall vulnerabilities identified, injecting polymorphic code now. Arxenzel, contained within a force field that barely held its stellar energies in check, pulsed with anticipation. My core approaches critical mass. The void hungers for change. Jack surveyed the controlled chaos, a mixture of pride and trepidation on his face. This is it, people. In a few moments, we either liberate the galaxy or tear reality apart. Zara stepped to his side, her scales shimmering with barely contained power. Whatever happens, we face it together. Their eyes met, volumes of unspoken emotion passing between them. The crew fell silent, the weight of the moment palpable. Nix broke the tension with a nervous chuckle. Well, don't keep us in suspense, lovebirds. Let's rewrite history. With a nod from Jack, Zara interfaced with the Stardancer's systems. Her consciousness expanded, merging with the quantum network they painstakingly constructed. She felt the pulse of every communication device in the galaxy, billions upon billions of connections waiting to be ignited. Initiating protocol revelation, Zara announced, her voice resonating with otherworldly harmonics. A beam of pure quantum energy lanced from the Stardancer, striking Nexus Prime's information nexus. The planet's atmosphere rippled, waves of data cascading across its surface. For a breathless moment, nothing happened. Then, like a supernova in slow motion, awareness bloomed across the galaxy. On countless worlds, beings of every species suddenly found their minds linked in a vast, collective consciousness. The truth of the Omega Collective's manipulation laid bare for all to see. Centuries of corruption, exploitation, and hidden agendas exposed in an instant of perfect clarity. But something was wrong. As the quantum entanglement spread, reality itself began to warp. Timelines fractured and merged. Parallel universes blade into one another. The dimensional barriers are collapsing. Dr. Voss shouted over the cacophony of alarms. The entanglement is spreading beyond our universe. Jack's eyes widened in horror. Shut it down. Zara, you have to disconnect. But Zara couldn't hear him. Her consciousness was adrift in an ocean of infinite possibilities. She saw versions of herself across 1,000 realities: slave, queen, destroyer, savior. And at the heart of it all, a truth more terrifying than anything they'd imagined. The Omega Collective wasn't controlling reality. They were reality. Ancient beings from the dawn of creation, they had shaped the very laws of physics to create a cosmic playground for their amusement. Entire galaxies were nothing but pawns in their grand game. With this realization came a choice. Armed with the knowledge of all possible futures, Zara could reshape existence itself. But the power was too vast, too corrupting. She felt herself slipping away, becoming something beyond mortal comprehension. In that moment of crisis, a familiar presence cut through the chaos. Jack's mind, somehow maintaining its integrity in the quantum maelstrom, reached out to her. Zara, his thoughts called. Remember who you are. Remember why we fought. Images flashed through her mind. The pain of betrayal, the thrill of rebellion, the warmth of newfound friendship, the first stirrings of love. With a Herculean effort, Zara wrenched her consciousness back from the brink of transcendence. Reality shuddered. The quantum link snapped. Across the galaxy, beings found themselves abruptly alone in their own minds once more. But the knowledge remained. The truth could not be unlearned. In the Stardancer's hold, now eerily silent, Zara collapsed into Jack's arms. "Did it work?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. Before Jack could answer, space itself seemed to tear open. A swirling vortex of impossible geometries filled the view screen. From its depths emerged a being of pure light and shadow, simultaneously ancient and newborn. Seal and your articulations, it spoke, its voice resonating on frequencies beyond mortal hearing. UHAVPASSEDTA test. The crew stared in stunned silence as the entity continued. For eons, we gave HSOUG to beings worthy of joining us. Those worthy the wisdom to see beyond TAVIL, yet the strength to resist its temptations. UAGVPOVN yourselves thus. Join you. Jack managed to croak out. You mean, become like you? The being's form shimmered, briefly taking on aspects of each crew member. To ascend, to be Tsidomi HHAPRs of reality TSAF. But be LBA. YT such power comes grave responsibility. She choose wisely. As the import of the offer sank in, the crew exchanged glances. The chance to rewrite the cosmic order, to truly change things on a fundamental level. But at what cost? Zara stood, still leaning on Jack for support. Her voice was quiet but firm. We didn't fight to become new masters, she said. We fought for freedom, for justice, for the right of every being to choose their own path. She looked around at her companions, seeing agreement in their eyes. We respectfully decline your offer, Zara continued, but we will use the knowledge we've gained to help our galaxy heal, to build a future where no one is enslaved by chains, by corruption, or by cosmic games. The entity was silent for a long moment. Then, impossibly, it laughed. The sound was like stars being born and galaxies colliding. "Well spoken, young one. Perhaps there is hope ye for this reality yet." With a gesture, the being repaired the damage done to the fabric of spacetime. "Go forth," it said as it began to fade. "Your story is far from over." As the vortex closed, leaving the Stardancer alone in normal space once more, the crew let out a collective breath. "Well," Nick said, breaking the silence. "That was something." "Indeed," Vex agreed. "But what now? We've exposed the truth, but the galaxy is in chaos. There will be war, revolution." Jack grinned, pulling Zora close. Now we get to work. There's a new galaxy to build, and I can't think of a better crew to help shape it." As the Stardancer set course for the nearest populated system, its crew began planning for the challenges ahead. They had started as reluctant rebels and become unlikely heroes. Now they would be pioneers of a new age. The galaxy would never be the same. But with wisdom hard-won and bonds forged in the fires of adversity, they faced the future unafraid. For Zora, once a helpless slave, now stood tall as a beacon of hope. And by her side, Jack Durant, the human who had shown her that even in the darkest reaches of space, love and justice could prevail. Their greatest adventure was just beginning.